If rising prices are rendering your budget ineffective, stressing you out, or making you feel like you're just throwing money at bills faster than you can make it. There are specific steps that you can take to not only gain control, but also to effectively save money every single month.
In this video, we're going to talk about the rising prices, and we're going to show you how right now we're working through some areas to navigate how we're going to handle these changes.
We'll show you the exact steps that we're taking and that you too can take in order to gain control of your budget and to stop rising prices from blowing up your budget.
If you don't know us, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And we're from Under the Median, where every week we bring you videos on practical frugality.
Before we get started, we would love to hear from you. What is that area of your budget? What's that one consistent bill that is going up and it's just making you lose sleep at night wondering where in the world the rising prices are going to stop? What are you trying to navigate in your budget right now? And as we mentioned in this video, Larry and I are going to give you specific real-time, real-life examples from our own budget, areas that have consistently been going up.
One of the things you can do is watch for warning signs. Oftentimes, there's a little hint somewhere that prices are going to change. I was watching our local news last week, and they mentioned that cocoa and sugar are going up in price. So we're going to stock up on these items before they get up there too high.
You can wait for some sales, watch for those sales on sugar. One of the things you can do to be aware of when these sales might take place is know the sales cycle. Everything in the grocery store has a cycle that it goes through where it periodically goes on sale. For instance, if you watch closely, you'll know that sugar prices are going to drop in conjunction with major holidays. You just probably saw sugar go on sale because it was Easter and everybody knew in the grocery store that the people who were buying sugar were going to be baking. They also dropped sugar prices around Thanksgiving and also around Christmas, and you might, I don't know, you might see a little bit of a reduction on sugar prices in the US around the 4th of July when we're all making ooey gooey goodies to celebrate our nation's birthday. So knowing those sales cycles can be helpful in watching and waiting for that next opportunity to get the lower prices. And when you see the prices drop, you want to buy more than one. The whole idea is stockpile when you can get it at a terrific deal.
Hope kind of touched on this next item from what she was just telling you about sugar prices. What you want to do is track price trends. Look and see, is there an ebb and flow to the prices? And do they happen at certain times of the year where you could stock up on them? That's very important to do.
Now, if rising prices are impacting your budget, and I think that would include all of us, it might be helpful for you to have a list of common sense ways that you could cut expenses in your monthly budget. That's exactly why I wrote a free resource. It's called 10 Ways to Radically Reduce Your Expenses. This helpful ebook is filled with all the ways that Larry and I consistently spent less and saved more when we had great big financial goals and we were also raising 4 sons on a less than average income. In the ebook, I include step-by-step instructions for each of the ways to save money, and there's also checklists included. And the ebook, once again, is free. There'll be a link to it in the description of this video.
And this is a great time to make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed. We'd love to have you part of our frugal family.
In addition to watching for warning signs and also tracking those price trends, there's a third thing that you should do, and it is super important.
And that would be reading the supplements that come in your bills. Now, our water bill comes with such a thing. It's a little paper supplement. It gives some news that they might have to talk to us about.
They have news.
This is how we found out that the water prices were going to rise over the next few months. And we were kind of shocked at the details. And this was actually on the back page of it. So we had to kind of read through it even to get to that information.
In our case, we read that the water company intends to raise the prices within 18 months. And they are saying that for the average residential customer, it means a rise in prices of about $24 a month for your water bill. And then for your sewer bill, your wastewater bill, they said an average of $3 a month. Our average combined water and sewer bill right now is around $60 a month.
So now that you're aware of all this information, what do you do with it? How do you start making some adjustments? Well, now is the time to start doing that. Now is the time to start looking at everything that you can in order to compensate for what's going to happen.
We'd be very remiss if we did not say the first thing you need to do is look at your debt load. If you are in debt, my friend, now is the time to really put the pedal to the metal and pay off that debt. Being debt-free is going to help you substantially as prices continue to rise. But what else can you do that's very practical, very hands-on in order to deal with these expected rising prices and do it right now?
One of the things that we would recommend is you take a stair-step approach. Now, a stair-step approach, you know, when you climb stairs, you don't go from the bottom step all the way to the top step. You climb them a step at a time, and that is what we're going to do with the water bill. We're going to work on this water a step at a time to see how much we can reduce it in every area that we're using it.
And since water is our example for the day, because we just found this out last week, we'll walk you through the exact process that we use in order to deal with this potential 42% rising prices. That's what the price rise is that we're looking for as far as water concerned. So the stair-step approach means that what we're going to do is we're going to find out different ways and different levels at which we can reduce our expenses as far as the water bill is concerned. We actually have a handy worksheet that we use a lot in order to help us to conceptualize this in our mind, and we call it our what if plan. Here's what our blank what if worksheet looks like. You'll notice it's not filled in. This is going to be for our water bill plan. To sort of allow you to see how we use the worksheet, we're going to use an example of a what if plan that we filled in mid-2022 when gas prices started just absolutely soaring. And you'll see immediately how the what if plan allows you to stair step your approach to saving money in that area. Basically, a what if plan is going to give you a 3-step approach. What if water prices go up from $60 a month to $80 a month? What if it goes up to $100 a month? And then we like worst case scenarios. What if our water bill doubles? What if it goes from $60 to $120 a month? What this allows us to do is test exactly what we are willing to do in order to help save in that budget area. Now, bearing that in mind, we'll put up on the screen and we'll show you what this looks like when we run the exact same scenario. We did it in mid-2022 when gas prices were rising.
One of the very first steps that we take in our what if plan is we evaluate exactly and specifically how we're using the item that's going up in price. In the case of gas, we looked at all the different trips that we take with the car. What do we use the car for? Where do we go? How often do we go? With water, we're going to do the same thing. What are we using the water for? We're going to break it down into probably 6 to 8 specific steps and then work on each of those.
The thing with saving money, guys, is that you cannot change what you don't acknowledge, and you can't acknowledge what you don't know.
Yeah.
So if you know how you're already spending money at the grocery store, or how you're already using gasoline in your car, or in our case, how we're already using water, we can acknowledge then this is what needs to change. You can't pinpoint the areas that need change until you know how you're using that commodity in the first place. And that is where our Frugal Ideas sheet comes in. We are breaking down how we're using water into 8 basic different categories. We're using water just broadly for showers, cooking, dishes, drinking, cleaning, washing clothes, and of course, flushing the toilet. Those are 8 broad areas. Now you'll notice that our Frugal Ideas sheet breaks it down into each of those 8 categories, and we have a space all the way over to the right of that worksheet that says, how are we going to save money in this specific area of our water usage?
Once we figure out exactly what we're using the water for, then we're going to track our use, because we have to know exactly what are we doing with the water. So we have a sheet here that we fill out that has the date and time, how the water was used, and we have some notes about how we can make some possible changes to how we're using it.
Now, once again, you'll notice this worksheet, because we just started working on this water
blank.
scenario, is blank.
Yeah.
But once again, we have a real life example of this exact same worksheet and how we used that worksheet when we wanted to lower our entire utility bill in the middle of summer in Illinois. In June of last year to no more than $100. It was one of my great big ideas, and Larry, thank goodness, got on board. So we had an electric usage sheet that we filled out that showed us exactly how we were using electricity each day. Now, we didn't get down to, we have 6 lights on in the house. We got down to the big usage, cooking. Cooking was a huge electric usage. The whole house fan we were using to cool the house, that was a big electric usage. Those big areas, that's what we were tracking and figuring out what we could do a little bit differently to lower that usage.
We even had it all the way down to the coffee pot, which, as you know, is a very important appliance in our home.
Now you'll notice that we are huge on 2 things. We're huge on getting as much knowledge as we can of how we are utilizing that commodity. Then we're also equally big on figuring out some workarounds. How can we do things differently in order to reduce our usage of that commodity? And that's the next thing that you need to make sure you're doing. You need to figure out substitutions or workarounds.
When meat rose to astronomical levels, people were actually changing over to vegetarian lifestyle. They cooked vegetables and they made meals based on things that grow. They were much cheaper and they saved a boatload of money doing this.
That's an example of a really popular workaround that people came up with. When grocery prices started rising, all of a sudden backyard gardening supplies were in hot demand. Why? Because people decided that they would grow some of their own food and not rely on the local grocery store. What generally happens is when there is a crisis, people react. And part of the process we're trying to show you in this video is how to figure out where that trend is going ahead of time and react ahead of time so that you are well prepared when something happens. Not always possible. Sometimes you just get a bill in the mail and you're like, well, that went up 40%. In that case, you use the exact same process that we're showing you, only you shorten it as much as possible in order to get jumping on it and get going on it right away.
One other example that I was just thinking of was the Arab oil embargo of 1974. That's when gas prices really soared. I mean, it was very dramatic. And the next thing that people started doing was looking at what they were driving and how they could drive something that got better mileage. And small cars became very popular and almost everyone downsized. Even my dad bought a 4-cylinder car, and I can't believe he actually did that and gave up his V8.
Looking at historical trends is one of the really important ways that you can learn how to deal with things that are happening new. Because very seldom does something happen that has never happened before in the past. So looking back on how people dealt with similar situations decades ago is super helpful in figuring out how you also can deal with the same situation. Another way that you can figure out how you are going to reduce the impact of rising prices on your budget is to ask other frugal friends. My friend Julie is about to get a phone call from me. You know why? She is brilliant when it comes to saving money on her water bill. And I know that about her, so I'm going to call and say, here's what I'm doing. What else do you think that we would be able to do?
Another strategy you can incorporate is to negotiate a lower price on the plan that you're currently in, or switch to a cheaper plan.
It's not always going to be possible to negate all of the impact of rising prices because prices are going up in pretty much every area of our budget. Ultimately, you need to either be able to move money from one area of your budget to another area of your budget, or you need to be able to reduce your consumption, or finally, you may need to bring in extra income. But all of the tactics that we are showing you in this video will help to even out that process so that what doesn't happen is that you wind up panicking. Never panic, always plan.
If you're ready to double down on savings, even as prices continue to rise, we have several ideas that we put into another video for you, and that video is right over there.